So we talked about breaking down the, backlog. We had our initial backlog. We were able to do the estimations, and what it would take to finish the sprint. So I said we should take each of these story card, right, to be able to write stories. I don't know, did anyone write any stories, or do we have any questions before we continue?
Hi, Florence. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, this is Loretta. I just wanted to inform you that the Excel sheet that you sent us, it was not editable. It was view, and we requested access. I thought you were going to, by chance, open the document so you could see, but I couldn't post anything there. So I bet everybody also had the same issue as well.
Are you serious? You requested access?
Yeah, I did request access. I'm sure a lot of people also did request access, but we couldn't do anything.
Gosh, my
drops message self that's we couldn't access this thing. Can you open up the access? But nothing.
Yeah. I thought I did.
It's okay. It's fine. Just wrote it out and
I just checked it out. Like nobody wrote anything. That can be true.
No, we did try, but
I thought anyone with this link.
It says viewer. It didn't edit. See, if you click on that button that says view, then it would have been editor exactly. Then would have been able to edit.
So
it's okay.
It's so sad. Okay. Yeah, you can still, if you have,
you can still post it. Okay,
I'll post it now so that we can put it there because I'm gonna grab it from there.
Okay.
We're gonna.
All right, that's good. Thank you.
In the chat now, so you can try again. Oh, right. Sorry about that.
All right.
Okay, so you can, come in, just pick a line and you start putting your stories. Okay. So what do we want to do today, right? We said that we've done let me go back to the agenda, right? We said we're doing sprint 0. Some organization will not call it sprint 0. They'll call it planning phase, initial planning, right? So that's what we're doing. So imagine we've done all our brainstorming. We've been able to break our features into epic and story card. All those initial work has been done. We've been able to estimate our initial backlog. Now, remember, you just estimated your initial backlog. It doesn't mean that's your final estimation, right? Things will change along the line. We agreed on the cadence, right? We said that we're going to be doing 2 weeks. Right? So the team is going to agree. It's not an individual thing. When you get to some organization, they already have a way. Most of them do 2 weeks, some maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But you also want to know what is obtainable in those organizations. We also agree on our initial velocity. And we said for initial velocity, right? The team just agree at that point that this is what they are starting with. But over time, they will understand, right? They'll be able to have their average velocity, right? So they can do about 2 to 3, 4 sprints before they are able to understand that this is what their velocity looks like, right? For release planning, we did a bit of release planning, but for the question, the simulation you had already, there was a bit of release planning already in terms of we know that by March 30, we have to do the release 1. By August 30th, they release July 30th, and by August, they release 3, right? So we had an idea of that. I'm going to show you a video of that release planning, right? We're going to watch a video on the release planning now, right? But let me finish this, then we'll watch a video. I'm going to show you a video of the release planning. Then definition of done. We'll give an example of definition of done, what the team can put together as definition of done. So after all this is done, right? After all this is done, you get an agreement from the stakeholder. Everybody say, yes, we're good. Then we kick off, right? All the dependencies have been, maybe things you need to get approvals for and all that. Then after that, you can now start the sprint. But before you start the sprint, they will do what we call a refinement, like a refinement, something like refinement slash backlog, like a backlog refinement, right? So it's more like you're doing a refinement to agree on the things you want to do first in this sprint, right? Then you're still going to have the mid backlog refinement. You know, this mid backlog refinement is one when I said day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 9, then. So day 5, day 6, this is the mid backlog refinement, right? But this backlog refinement is just the initial one that, okay, we're starting the first sprint. What are the things we need to, we want to work on, okay? So this is what we have. Right now, I will let you, you watch a video on release planning, right? After watching the video on release planning, then we'll now say, we'll do something on definition of done. Then we'll say we're good to go. Then we'll now go and refine. We'll put all our stories in Jira. We'll do that first initial refinement for sprint 1. Then we'll start our sprint. Okay. So I'm gonna showcase the video now for you to watch an example of the release planning that the team is doing. And also, if you have comments based on what you watch, I also want to hear your comments as well. Okay. Release planning. Okay. I'm gonna share now. As you're watching the video, if you want to put your stories, you can put them in the on the Excel sheet. Okay. Optimize for some.
Our next activity is around release planning. So the team's already determined their initial velocity, and they estimated that they can get this story and this story done within the first iteration. And how we did that is they broke down all the tasks for that story and acted like they were having a sprint planning meeting and determined this is how much we think we can actually have as our capacity. So that's the best way to estimate initial velocity, is to really break down the work and almost do a mock planning meeting to see how much can I really fit in the next iteration. So based on that, team, can you just come take a look at the backlog and sort of begin to build your release plan? Knowing what we have on the backlog, which stories do you think you can get done in which iteration? This is just a high-level plan now, product owner. We want you to know this is going to change. Okay. So the plan that we've got over here is just a temporary plan. It just helps us figure out how many iterations we're going to need, but it will definitely change. So go ahead and get started.
So it sounds like we've said for about 2 weeks we can get about 11 points completed. So, you know, I don't know what I guess based on our dependency chart, the next story that I see is this one. If you guys can just go ahead and start helping me move these, I'm going to do it based on. Thanks. So
I really want all of ours done right away. Mm-hmm. So can we move some of these?
See, Melissa, what we have here is just a 2-week iteration. And so within the 2-week iteration, in order for us to be able to provide you with high quality and keep these stories to your definition of done, which doesn't just mean done with development, but also well-tested, as well as having you verify it, what we need to do is follow the velocity of the team. So the team is saying all they can do is 11 points. Now we'll divide these up into the different iterations, and we'll let you know how much the team is able to get done every iteration. And again, these will change. So.
Okay. And Melissa, the last thing we want to do is tell you we can do it all and only deliver 11 story points, or your first 2 stories. Okay. We want to be honest with you based on how much time we have, the resources we have. So if we can only do 11, the key is, are these your top 2 out of all these?
Okay.
If these are not your top 2, then you definitely have the freedom to rearrange these. You can always move these around until we start this sprint.
Okay, well, those were my top 2 on the dependency, so
those are the ones. And Melissa, just to be very clear, you completely have top authority on the prioritization.
Okay.
But in Agile, the rule is the team makes self-commits to what they can get done with an iteration.
Okay.
So we cannot actually tell the team how many to get done with an iteration, even though they'll be happy to help, but they will pull from the backlog. If they get done early and they have capacity, they will pull for the remaining backlog.
Okay.
So team, based on what you feel your capacity is, sort out the stories and the plan.
So based on what Melissa said, I think we just move this one down a little bit, if you're okay with that. This seems to be her priority. So then we'll move this one to maybe iteration 3. Okay. All right, so if you want to keep going with the rest of them, I'll move the ones she had last iteration. So there you go. Perfect.
if you guys can get 11 points done, why don't we change this one to 5 so that we can get it done with these? Now,
Well, that was our estimated effort for that one, so we can't really change the effort. We can,
but they don't mean anything. They're just numbers, right?
but they mean in relation to the other stories. So we can't just adjust the numbers because we think it's less or more now, because it's still the same amount of work.
Yeah, what's at risk there is if we truly think this is an 8 for complexity, if we think this is an 8 and we want to change it to a 5, it's still an 8. We still have more work and we're at risk of not getting that done for you.
Yeah, so I mean, what's going to happen if you do something like that is, you'll find that the development got done in time, but then the QA is behind and you won't have the high quality that you'd like.
Our goal is always, if we commit to sprint 2 to get all this done, we want this done. And we will define the definition of done for each of these stories and have goals for each iteration, each sprint.
So can we just start this one, but not get it all the way done in this sprint?
That is an option, but we would still keep it in the next iteration. And as we complete Melissa's 2 top priorities, then we'd pull from the next sprint. But to have it here, then that would be part of our velocity, and we know we couldn't get it all done. So what we do is we do the pull method.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
About the remaining stories, or is that pretty much all we can get done? Okay, so these are the remaining stories in the backlog. Okay, so
Unless we had another iteration.
that's right. So here's the moment of truth right now. Based on the team's velocity and based on what they think they can get done, this is sort of our hardening iteration. This is the one that we wanted to keep at the end to do final regression testing, just making sure that things are right before we move to production, and then this is our install. Here's the remaining items on the backlog. So the options that you have right now are either to take some of these out so you can fit some of these in, and they have to be ones that don't have a dependency. The other option that you have is we can add a couple more iterations, 2 or 3 more iterations to finish what you've got over there. So what's your thought process in terms of this release?
Can we just make this last iteration like 8 weeks long, and then we could just finish up?
What do you think about that, Scrum Master?
She's good.
She's really good.
That is always an option, but what that does for you is it will ruin our velocity. Our team decided 2-week iterations, so we know what our production is. Adding 8 weeks, that's more of a traditional or waterfall approach. So we will wait for 8 weeks before you see working software. That way you don't get our commitment of 2 weeks, you don't get stories done, things just elongate, you'll get frustrated, you want to see working software.
Your best friend are fixed iterations.
We're time boxed.
It's those time boxes that allow you to predict how much the team is actually getting done. And the minute you start messing around with the time boxes, so it's a variable now, you've lost velocity. And trust me, there's no number that you've had before traditionally that's like velocity. Velocity will help you predict that, especially for a mature team, this team's getting 15 points done every iteration, and you've got 150 points done on the backlog. That's about 10 iterations plus or minus 2. And that's almost very close to reality as you can get compared to what we've had before. So you don't want to mess with iteration lengths. You'll lose your velocity.
Melissa, I heard you say 8 weeks. So what we'll do is we'll take those 8 weeks and we can spread them out over 4 iterations.
Okay. So we need to add 4 more sprints.
We're going to talk to Lisa. Yes, we're going to talk to her.
Where is Lisa, by the way? I heard she was going to come in too.
Here comes our sponsor.
I'm here. I think she's going to be very focused on the date.
Perfect timing. We have our release plan up here on the wall. Starting with
Lisa, come on closer, just so we can show you this wall.
This is our iteration 0. We do all our setup, our access, database setup, make sure we have the right software, even some high-level designs. Iteration 1 is really where we kick it in gear and start writing the designs, the detailed designs, the
coding. Come on this side if you don't mind, just so you can see it clearly. Forget the hardening iteration.
Literally. Iteration 1 is where we really start the design work, detailed designs, start the coding and the testing. And Melissa, the product owner, said these are her top 2 stories. This is what she wants us to get done. The team actually had a mock sprint planning meeting and tasked these out to find out just how much work it would be. And this is a 3 and an 8 for a story point. We think we can get 11 story points done per iteration.
Okay.
And those story points are based on the complexity of these stories.
So not 11 hours, obviously, just 11 points from a complexity standpoint.
Right.
Okay.
And this is iteration 2, 3, and then that's basically what we thought we'd do is five sprints, 5 iterations based on what you have given us for budget and schedule. Behind you is more stories, some of our lower level, nice to haves that Melissa have prioritized. There's a few in there, right, Melissa, that you would really like to get done, you have to get done. And so what we were thinking about doing, some are recommended that maybe we add a couple iterations.
Actually, I need to clean something up. Our business user stuck the story in here. And so we just want to make sure, because the team's velocity was not going to cover this one, and our business user wanted to get this done. But are you okay that we need to put this back in the backlog?
Yes.
Because we'll probably get started and not finish this, and that would not be good.
After you explained to me how that works, yes, that one should have been
Okay.
Nice move.
Yeah, nice move.
So what we're thinking about adding a couple more iterations so you can get all your functionality.
So how does that affect, though, our overall timeline?
It would elongate it.
Okay.
So what we need to do is understand yours, Melissa's requirements, what's your high value versus the cost, and negotiate on what will meet your needs. And what we can, there's a lot of things we can do. We can put all this in production. You could use it, see how it works. Maybe even do some assess and adjust. Then we can have a second release and do whatever your next high priorities are.
And well, I guess one of my thoughts is that with Agile, this is flexible, right? You said that this may change depending on the
Absolutely.
team's
Yeah, we're just
progress and all.
We're trying to let you know very early on,
Right.
based on our velocity of about 11, we'll just say 10 points per iteration, and we have about 3 iterations, that's about 30 points. So you have to pick your top highest value 30 points to get done. And you can continue to change it. Obviously, you don't want to change it so dramatically that the team's starting and stopping.
Right.
But yes, you can absolutely, we can be flexible here. But what you've got that you're working at is about 30 points, give or take. So we can add iterations, or you can figure out what are the top 30 that you want to get done.
I think that we'll want to be focused on our priorities so that we're at least going to be able to have a release with the minimal functionality. And then obviously as much as you can pull in, the better.
Okay.
But we can't afford to completely extend the timeline without having some deliverable there with the commitments that we've made.
So I think the decision then is let's release, and then we'll just continue. We'll have more iterations, and we'll continue to pull from the backlog and do another release plan to see what's the next top priority. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Team, everyone okay with that?
Fist to 5. Everyone know what a fist to 5 is, by the way? 5 means I absolutely love this idea and I 100% support it. 4 means I like it. I like the idea. 3 means I'm on the fence. I have reservations, but I'm willing to support it. Do you guys know what support it means?
I'm not going to go talk behind.
I will not go talk behind the team's back after I leave this meeting.
And I can live with it.
And I can live with it and support it.
Live with it.
And 2 means
I have reservations. We cannot move forward.
I have reservations. I have some concerns. They might not be major concerns, but I do want to talk about them. And 1, it means I have major concerns. I don't think we should move forward on this. A 1 or a 2 stops our team from moving forward. But since we had a lot of 5, 4s, and 3s, we're good to go.
Now I'm about a 3 right now.
Okay, so we need to have a quick discussion. Cassia, is the background noise stopped, or you still having the background noise? You good? So let's have a quick discussion, right? Based on it's good now. Based on the video you watched, so that's what release planning is, right? So imagine, but for the project we are working on, we already have release plan for March 30th. Right? We have the one for July and for August, right? So imagine there was no timeline. They didn't give you that March 30th. This is how you're going to analyze. You can see they wanted to do 5 sprints, right? But they're actually going to work for 3 sprints because the 4th sprint is for them to do regression testing, merge all the work they've been doing in sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3 together, and get ready for production in sprint 5, right? Now, but they still have a lot of work in the backlog, right? And the team is trying to see, the product owner and the sponsor are trying to see if they can do more. But they're saying if they can do more, they will have to elongate the release plan. So release 1 will not happen after 5 sprints. You get, so that's where you make that decision and all that. So before you actually kick off, that agreement needs to happen, right? And the stakeholder will say, okay, we're good. Okay, this is what we should be expecting at the end of release 1. And as I said, it doesn't mean that you cannot change it. You can still change it. You can see the role the Scrum Master is playing there to make sure that the team is protected, right? Protecting the team from the product owner and the sponsor, right? Which is our job, to protect the team, right? You can also see that the product owner is the one actually giving that final stories that they need to work on, right? But she will have considered the complexity, the dependencies and everything, right? So that is what the release planning looks like. This is how the discussion will happen, and everyone in the team has to agree with it. They have to commit to it as well. Any questions or anything you noticed that you want to mention? Nothing from anyone? You understand the video? Uche, yeah?
So
You can go ahead.
it's just I just want to confirm what you said. So
Okay.
basically, release planning is they are just planning the things they can because I didn't really understand the video. There were a lot of background noise, but from what you explained, is about trying to identify the things you want to get out in the first sprint or in the second, in a particular sprint. So you're trying to identify, okay, these are the things we can actually finish in this sprint, or these are the priority, trying to prioritize the requirement for a particular sprint. Is that correct?
Yes, so they are doing it for release 1. So release 1 is the minimal viable product, right? Something you want to release. At what point do you want to release something out, right? So they look at it and say, okay, these are what they can, because they've done their initial sprint and say it's 11, right? So after 3 sprints, right? The 4th and the 5th sprint. So after 5 sprints, which is about 10 weeks, they want to be able to get something out, right? And they can do an average of 11, right? Average velocity for each sprint is 11. So they did something about 30 sprints for the 3 sprints and said, okay, these are what they will be able to accomplish for release 1, right? There are still items in the backlog. The product owner can change those items, right? But this is what the team has committed to for release 1. Right? So what they are doing is they just want to know what functionalities will be available at the end of 5 sprints that the users will be able to use.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, good. So if I go to our backlog now, I want to go to that mural board again and show you something. So if I go back to the mural board right now, 1 second, I'm trying to open this up. If we go back to the mural board, so what we did here, remember when we said we now look at it that these items alone at the top here, our release 1. The item in the second row is our release 2, while the item in the third row is our release 3, right? So this item in the release 1, right, that's what they're saying, that after 5 sprints, these are the things they will deliver. Right now, this is what they will focus on. This 5, that 5 sprints, what they done, now broke it down into sprints 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, because sprint 4 is for them to do regression testing, put everything together. Then release 5 is for them to push to production. So that was what they did, right? And remember when we did our calculation on initial velocity, when we said 4 sprint, so we're saying that after 4 sprints, we'll have delivered all these things in this release 1, right? Then we'll plan for production to release into production, right? Something like that. Now, the stakeholder understand that, in 10 weeks, they should be expecting something from the team. The stakeholder should be expecting something that they can use, something that is already in production, right? So that's just the idea for you to understand that, okay, this is how you analyze what you're actually going to give to the stakeholders. So what we want to do now is we want to go into Jira, right? So we'll go into Jira, then we'll start putting all our stories in the backlog, right? So I'm going to share my screen again. I want to see what you guys have put together. So we have some stories here, right? Payments with card, ticket listing, story information, events. Okay, for those that were able to put this together, well done. I know that I didn't open up this on time, so there's nothing more to say. I will just work with what we have, right? So let me go to Jira. So I said, let's do definition. We've done release planning, definition of done. Definition of done is just what the team agrees to, right? As a team, like for everything we're going to be working on, what is our definition of done, right? Becca, I wanted to say something. Did you notice when in the video, when the Scrum Master was saying that, oh, when we finish on time, we can pull some more work from the backlog, right? So it's possible to pull work. You did, right? So it's possible to pull work, from the backlog, right? It's not because we are done, then because they finish early, then everybody's now just looking nothing, they are bored, right? They can pull more work, but you just need to be careful of the more work based on your definition of done, right? It depends on what you guys have agreed on your definition of done. For example, if one of your definition of done is that for you to finish a sprint, for you to finish, maybe your definition of done means that it must be properly tested, QA and UAT, right? So let's say that this is one of your definition of done, right? It means that if you pull more work for them to be doing, right? If that work is not tested, you can't say it is done, right? You don't even want to, you know that yes, they had extra time to do the work, but because of based on your definition of done, it's not actually done because it wasn't tested. It's only the developer that worked on it, right? So most time people are always careful because they don't want it to affect their velocity. They will pull in more work, but maybe they will just focus it on the developed part. Then the testing will be done in the next sprint, right? So, but your definition of done will help you to understand if that work has actually been completed or is not completed, right? So some people definition of done can be it should be demoed to the PO, right? It should be demoed to PO. But you can also have it should comply with refactoring, like code review. So refactoring is like code review. When you do, you know, some people, when they do coding, they do like hard coding, right? Nobody else can review their code, right? So some team, there's something they do. They always have a way they write their code so that is easy, so that they put comments, they have a structure so that if Loretta writes something and Becca come into the organization, Becca can read the code that Loretta has written and she can make adjustment on those code, right? So you want to make sure that everyone is following that same pattern, right? So that you eliminate a lot of technical debt, right? So this definition of done will depend on each team, right? It's not the same thing for everything. It's different for different teams. So it's depending on what you guys agree on, right? I also told you that I was going to show you like an estimation, right? Where some team will say 1 to them. These are story points. So they will say 1 to them means about 1. Don't look at what I have here. Don't follow what I have here. If 1, it means about 1 to 2 business days. When you say your story point is 3, it means about 3 to 4 business days. You finish it within 3 to 4 business days. If your story is a 5, you finish it between 5 to 6 business days, right? Some organizations do this so that they have an idea, right? When they are doing their estimation of story point, right? That, okay, this is what it actually means, right? What I put here is just in hours, like what's in my means in hours to actually complete that work. And when they say something will take 16 hours, and the story is 1 point, it doesn't mean that it's one person that will work on it. It might also be one person that will work on it. If the story is 8 points and it takes the whole 10 days, business days, 80 hours. It doesn't mean there is only one person, right, that will work on it. I'll show you how these hours are calculated in terms of capacity planning when we get to sprint planning. So this is what actually happens, right? So this definition of done will be agreed on, right, before they actually start. So now we've agreed on our definition of done. Everyone is happy. We know what our initial velocity is. We know what our release planning is. Now we've spoken to the sponsor. Everyone is good. So what we now want to do now is we want to go and put all our stories in Jira so that we can track them from Jira, right, and get ready for sprint planning. That's what we want to do. So now if you go to Jira, so this is Jira. I'll go to the backlog, okay? So some people have access to this already. So when I start creating, you can also join, okay? But we don't have enough stories. Assuming we have enough, we'll add, right? So for example, if we don't have enough stories, but I will try my best to see how I can, help you guys with just put some stories together to explain this, okay? So for example, let's create stories here. You pick up the story, for example, payments with card. I'm going to pick payments with card. Remember I told you that you take all those story cards, right? You now create the stories. So payments with card, we've created that one. I don't want it in the sprint planning yet. I want all the stories in the backlog. Where's my story? I hope you didn't delete it. Okay, payments with card, right? So now, if you open payments with card, we're going to write the details here, the description. So let's go and look at the story. As a buyer, I want to be able to make payment for the ticket with my credit card. So I'll pick this up. As a buyer, I want to make payments. I'll add it to my description. So what people do is they'll put description, right? You can bold it. Then they'll put the acceptance criteria. This is what most organizations do. This is how you're going to put your details, right? Acceptance criteria, you go back to the user story. I'm copying the acceptance criteria. This is a good job. Thank you for putting all this together. Then you copy the acceptance criteria. You have it here. You add it here, right? It didn't turn up well, but it's fine. So you have your acceptance criteria, right? So you have your acceptance criteria, you save it, right? So assuming you have a supporting document that maybe the UX UI person has put together or the business analyst or using app builder or anything, you come over here, you see where you can do attachments. You add attachments, right? So let me just put the simulation case studies, for example, right? So you attach. You can see that I've attached. So if you have like a supporting document for that story, you put it in the attachment, right? So that's it, right? Now you can also assign it. So for example, I have names of people here. So let me say Loretta here. I can assign this to Loretta, right? So this has been assigned to Loretta, right? You might not even assign it, right? So I'm going to remove Loretta because at this point, you're just trying to put everything in the sprint. I'm just showing you that when you get to sprint one, you can start assigning. So what we want to do now is put all the stories in the sprint with all these details. So for those that have access, I want you to come in now, start picking each of these story cards and adding it to the board, okay, so that we can have some stories in our backlog. So when you want to do this, just create the issue, put the story. Then if you put the story card, you open it up, you come here, you add the description to the story. Ticket list. As a web user, I want to see a list of the ticket that I want so that I can confirm that the ones I will pay for, good one. So you copy this, right? You add it to the description, right? Then you had your acceptance criteria, right? So for each of the story, this is what you are going to have. You have all those information for each of the story. If you have, you save it. If you have any attachment, you also attach it, right? So just let's start imagining that we have all the stories. So I'll quickly create some stories just to help us, right? So just imagine I've copied all these stories. Okay, we have more story. Let me do events, right? So I'll call this one select events. You put the details. Is anyone coming in to help me add the other stories? Okay, Loretta, good. Did you raise your hand? You want to speak or you want to add?
I was going to ask a question, but I could add as well. That's fine.
Okay.
With the user story, I just thought that there's so many ways people are writing user story now, but like you don't really know the one that's right and that's not right.
Yeah.
So now the way you're writing, the way you're putting it in Jira, not the space. So some people write and say, as a user, the way it is written in the user story format, that's how they put it here in the backlog. Is that proper? Or you just put the high level and just leave it like that, and then you go explain more in the description?
You can do that. So some people will write.
It doesn't matter.
Some people will write it this way.
And put it on the backlog like that.
Do it like this.
Okay.
Then they will now open it up, add more information, and add the acceptance criteria.
Acceptance criteria. Okay.
Yeah. So when you get to the organization, you see how they're doing it. Do they put the story card or do they write the full story? Right? Yeah. Okay. So me, I'm used to writing the story card because I like my backlog clean. I don't like to put a lot of, so depending on how you want it. And you as a Scrum Master, product owner, you can also direct that narrative, right? Depending on the developers don't care, right? Okay. You can direct that narrative. But why I like this way is that because sometimes you're going to see some technical stories, right? Yeah. And it's difficult for you to write it in form of the story, right? Yeah. You write that technical information, then come to the description and explain what is done technically, right? Okay. If you want, it depends on how, sometimes some people depend on how you want it structured.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I understand.
So you determine that, yes. So some organization will write it this way. I'm just used to writing a story card. Then when you open up my story card, you'll see all the information that you need regarding
all right. That. So I have a second question with regards to the Epic. Are you, let's say you're given you're told to write.
I've not done Epic. I've not showed you Epic yet. I'm just still writing stories.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? So let me just quickly put the stories together. Then I will show you how to connect with it Epic. So let's imagine all these stories that we have here, right? Let's say that, okay, let me add more stories just to help, right? So that when I'm doing the Epic, it will be easier. Select payments method. I'm just coming up with stuff in my head, okay? Loretta, you can come in and add to. Okay, I just want to have it in the backlog.
Let me go ahead.
Like we can all work simultaneously, right? It doesn't have to be reset password. Buy bid. Sell bid. Payments confirmation. Location. Debits card details. Credits. Okay, as I was writing that story, I just remember something. You know that you can also create your story from here. This create at the top. This is just the easiest way, right? So I don't get it why we have to create this way. So you can click on create, right? And write your story. Then write your details that you want to write, right? So you can do this that way as well, right? Bid confirmation. Right? You get some organization, this is how they will do it. Then you write your details, your description, right? Then, You pick your epic, but we've not done epic, so I'm not doing that. Then you create. So some organization will do it that way, right? You can go through this way to create your story, right? Now, so let's say we have all our stories, right? All these stories are supposed to be linked to an epic, right? So let's create some epic here. But remember that those epic, you are not just creating it out of the blues. Remember when we're doing our story mapping, remember that stories at the top, those large stories that we call at the top, that the story card belongs to. Let me show you so that, sometimes pictorial helps, right? So let me quickly show you in pictorial format. Loretta, you still raising your hand?
No, sorry. Let me take it down.
Remember when we're doing this, right? All this at the top that we call the epic, that we now have story card under it. So every story card under the register your profile as a seller, all the story card here, we go under this epic. All the story card here, we go under this epic. All the story card here, we go under this epic. So right now, I want to create this epic, this one's at the top, so that all the story card we've created can now go under those epic. That's what I'm trying to do now, right? So imagine all these stories on that landing page, right? So if I create an epic for landing page, all the story will go there. If I create an epic for payment, everything that has to do with payments will go there. All the story card that we have there. So that's why your story mapping is very important, because it gives you that understanding, right? First, before you go put them in your Jira, right? It gives you that understanding. So if we go back to Jira now, this is how to create epics. You see your epic here. So if I create epic, right, I'm going to call this payments. You can see that the epic has been created called payments easily, right? I can also create another epic. I can call this register. If I create another epic, I can call this bid. Okay? If I create one more epic, I can call these events. Okay? So now all the stories that we created, we have to be in one epic, because when we're doing our mapping, they belong to some epic. So payments with card will be here, right? Select events is under this epic. Can you guys notice something? Anytime I add it to an epic, the epic name will show. Can you see? So if I say register my profile under register, right? Set up payment gateway, payments, select payments method, right? You can do that easily. Ticket list, let me say that's under events, for example. So I'll put this under events, right? Select seats, events, reset password, register, buy bid, under bid, sell bid, under bid, payments confirmation, under payments, right? Another way you can do it, if I open location, right? You can come to the side here, right? And add it to the epic, see epic here. So you can look for the epic. Let's say I want to add it under events. You type the epic name, or you just look for events, then you add it to that epic. You can do it in that format. You can also go to, let's say, I want to add here, right? This debit, right? For me, I just speak, it's easy like that way. Some people, instead of that, they will create the issue. They will create the epic first, then they will create all the issues under that epic, right? So they will create the epic. You can see that this epic is already payments. Then they will now create issues under it. It will still do the same job. So you can do it in different formats, right? So right now you can see that every of our story is now in an epic, right? So easy peasy, curate your stories in the backlog, then add them to the epic. The epic is at the side, right? Easy. You see the epic. So as the stories as you're doing the stories, it will show you the stories that have been completed and the ones that are remaining, right? So this is how to create your epic, right? And these are your stories in the backlog. So now we have all our stories in the backlog. We have our epic. Another thing we want to create is what we call releases, right? So if you want to create releases, you go here to releases, you create your version, right? We know what our release 1 is, right? So let's say, for example, our release 1, remember what our release 1 is. Let me just say sites should be up, payments, link, ready, right? So you put all the things you want to achieve, your goals for release 1. What are the dates? We are starting, let's say we're starting in January and we need to release it by March 30th. The date has passed, so I don't know if it will allow me. But what I'm trying to say is that our March 30th was our release 1. You put all the details you want to achieve and you have your release 1, right? It's showing red because I guess that date has passed. So for release 2 as well, you can create release 2. So release 2 says that we should start in March 30th, and by July 30th, we'll have our release 2. What should be our release 2? We should be able to make bid and confirm bid. I'm just putting this as the goal. The goal is already in our simulation document. You put that details, right? So you have your release 2. So when you come back to the backlog, you have all these your stories, right? Now, so Loretta, I want you to now look at these stories and determine, which one, right? So even all these stories, you're going to estimate them, right? Remember those estimation we added, those are our initial estimation, right? You're going to add it. You can see these dots here. That's how to just add your points, your estimation. You can come here, story point, you see, just add it. Let's say this is a 5. Right? 1 second. I don't know why I can't do that. So you should be able to write it here. It's not allowing me to do that. 1 second. So anyway, if you come to the story points, you can add your story points, right? So let's say this is 8, right? So you just add those story points there. 1 second. I don't have to open it to write story points, but that's what it's making me do. So you should be able to write your story points here. Okay, let me see what we have in releases. 1 second. Settings, project settings. Okay, it's not there. What I'm looking for is not there. Okay, so let's say we have all these, for each of them, for each of these stories, you have your story pointers. And those are the estimations we've already agreed, right? Mohammed, for those that have access to this, please, can you add story points to these cards?
Okay.
So you just click on the story, right? When you click on the story, it takes you to the details here. Look for story points and add to it. Just put any number. Just imagine that we've already done those estimations. So just put a number and so that we can be fast. Okay. So what we just did right now is to add all our information that we've already worked together on Mural, right? We've worked together on it. So what we're doing is we're just adding everything. And so that's what happened. This is how you form your backlog to start working with, right? Now, another thing I want to show you is I want to show you how you can add a story to the version. So for example, let's say that I know that, okay, before we do that, I want us to prioritize. So let's make sure all the story points are there before we do that. So are you guys able to come in and put that story? Who is in here? Is anyone in here?
Yes, I'm in.
You're in? Are you able to do it?
For some reason, no.
Mohammed, you are in. Okay.
The link be shared again, please.
The link?
Please.
Okay, I just shared you the link. Okay, so you just come in, click on the story, you click on the story and you add the story points, right? So the story points we are adding, we are assuming that all this has been done, all those things we did on Mura already, right? Okay, so I think we can work with this. So now imagine all these stories has been done, right? So just as Mohammed are trying to finalize, Mohammed and Loretta will finish the remaining one, and every other person that